I was so moved, I sat down and wrote a poem. It's not easy for me to write a poem. And when it makes sense, it don't rhyme. And when it rhymes, it don't make sense. And I brought it with me. I hope you'll indulge me. I have to read it. I didn't have time to memorize it. Turn right onto Shake Ridge Road. Here we are. Ron Scofield is a master wagon master. No. Was a master wagon master. He had his license revoked. Marie Scofield is master of the master wagon master. Together with little Tommy in tow. There's little Tommy, there he is over there. They mastered America in a wagon. But this year, when they could have been out in the yard gardening, they got bucked off a wagon together into a dry creek bed, landing Ron in bed and nearly cracking Marie's head. Lesser stock would have succumbed to their injuries, but Ron is tougher than a $2 steak, and Marie is tougher than Ron. So all is well at the Red Mule Ranch as Ron, Marie, and Tom are back to doing what they know best. Making music, bringing people together, and putting smiles on our faces that will last a lifetime. You're our heroes, Ron, Marie. We love you. Actually, that was the second poem I ever wrote in my life. The first one I wrote on my binder in school. Latin is a dead language, dead as it can be. It killed the Romans, and now it's killing me. These two kids down here, I want to tell you, the nicest two kids I ever met. They greeted me here today with a coin, commemorative Mark Twain coin 2016, the only thing our 114th Congress could get together on, and gave it to me. It's the nicest thing anybody's ever done to me in 180 years. Thank you, guys. Wow. Well, I see we have some educators on the ranch and some historians. People tell me I'm a good historian where facts are not essential. I must confess to you, I have no formal education. In truth, I am as unlettered as the backside of a tombstone. But I've gained worlds of knowledge at second hand. None of it correct. Now, all you need for success in this life is ignorance and confidence. Then success is sure. My father died when I was 11. I had to go to work in the printing shop. So the printing house became my high school, the steamboat my university. I never let my schooling interfere with my education. I wrote to my brother in 1866, 150 years ago. I have had a call to literature of a low order, humorous, to excite the laughter of God's creatures. And just here, I might mention, a discriminating irreverence is the protector of human liberty. As against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand. I thought in light of my 180th birthday, I might share with you some secrets of my longevity and some etiquette on getting into heaven, which you might find handy someday. I suppose I should begin at the beginning, lest I forget the whole of it. and tell you I remembered the day I was born. Everybody came around to see if there was anything fresh in our line, and I shouldn't have minded if somebody had paid me a compliment, but nobody did. Might have been the mustache. When I was 9 days old, I discovered if a pin were sticking me and I advertised it in the customary fashion, I would be petted and coddled in a most agreeable way. But when my parents discovered there was no pin, they realized another liar had been added to the world's supply. My mother always said I was a well of truth. You just couldn't bring it all up in one bucket. I'm old enough now to have been mentioned in the Bible. Yes, if you look in Matthew, you'll see, whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, walk with him twain. Ostensibly, I'm an old man now. I've known a great many troubles. Most of them never happened. When I was a younger man studying for the gallows, I could remember anything, whether it happened or not. Now it seems I can only remember the latter. At 180, a man can be an ass without being an optimist, but he cannot be an optimist without being an ass. I might be the only person on the grounds who can golf his age. Yes, right-handed, left-handed, behind the back, doesn't matter. I played golf with Woodrow Wilson down in Bermuda, and I remember his turning to me on that beautiful fairway and saying, "Sam, good sportsmanship is not picking up lost golf balls while they're still rolling." Oh, I had a pocket full of them, yeah. No, golf is a good walk. Spoiled. Well, I have achieved my 180 years in the customary way, that is, by sticking to a scheme of life that would kill anybody else. You cannot get to old age by another man's road. My habits protect my life while they would assassinate you. We have no permanent habits until we're 40. Then they begin to harden. Presently, they petrify. Then business begins. In the matter of diet, I've been persistently strict in sticking to things that did not agree with each other's company and letting them fight it out on the inside. This has always worked for me until this last Nevada day. I stopped frolicking around with mincemeat pie and brandy after midnight. Oh, up until this last Nevada day, I always thought that mincemeat pie and brandy was like that gun on the wall, not loaded. As for drinking, I don't have any rules for drinking. When others are drinking, I like to help. I have found that a tumbler full of whiskey in the morning is a preventive against toothache. I've never had the toothache, and I don't intend to have one. As for smoking, well, I came into the world asking for a light. Probably go out blowing smoke rings. But I'm smoking in moderation now. I never smoke more than one of these at a time. Never smoke while asleep anymore. This is a good rule. Wouldn't answer for everybody trying to get to be 180, but it answers for me. I buy my cigars by the barrel. 90 years ago, I paid $6 for the barrel, and now I pay $7. That includes the barrel. Oh, my cigars are made out in Dayton, Nevada for the clergy. Make noise when they burn, like a forest fire crackling. But mosquitoes take no interest in me whatsoever. Women either, for that matter. As for exercise, well, I've never taken any exercise, and I don't intend to take any. Exercise is loathsome. I've never seen any advantage in being tired. Whenever I get the urge to exercise, I go lie down somewhere till it passes away. The only exercise I get anymore is as a pallbearer for friends who exercised all their lives. Oh, never put off until tomorrow what you can put off until day after tomorrow. I had a lady friend just last week ask me, Sam, I feel awful. What can I do to feel better? Well, I told her what my doctor told me. I said, dear, you must give up drinking and smoking and swearing and eating all manner of things that don't agree with each other's company. She said, but Sam, that would be easy. I don't drink, and I don't smoke, and I've never sworn. Well, there it was. She had been neglecting her habits. Here was this poor moral pauper, a sinking ship with no baggage to throw over. Oh, yes, one little bad habit might have saved her. So I repeat and emphasize my maxim: you cannot get to old age by another man's road. The important thing, the essential thing, is that we endeavor so to live that when we come to die, even the undertaker will be sorry. Oh. Isn't this pleasant? I have to tell you, in early California, everybody had a sense of humor. Even animals had a sense of humor. And we were always happy to have somebody tell us a story because it dragged our troubles away from our thoughts, which is the healthiest thing a body can do. We don't take enough time to do that nowadays. That's why we get sick sometimes. The comic story is English, the witty story is French, and the humorous story is American. It was born at home. It has stayed at home. It goes nowhere in particular, it just gurgles along like a musical brook. And if it has a snapper, it's up to you to try and find it. So come on back with me. Let your troubles drift away. Let's go back to 1865. When old Jim Blaine used to get comfortably and sociably charged and tell the story of his grandfather's old ram. But to mention the old ram in the first sentence was as far as any man ever heard him get, for he always meandered off interminably from one thing to another till his whiskey got the best of him. There never was a bullier old ram than he was. Grandfather fetched him from Illinois, from a galoot by the name of Filkins. I disremember his first name. But he was a stump, that Filkins. He was a deacon, Baptist. He was a rustler, too. Fella had to get up rather early to get the jump on old Filkins. And he married a Smith. Mighty fine family, them Smiths. Not a Sacramento Smith. This was an Indiana Smith. Them Sacramento Smiths is nobodies. Grandfather got that old ram all fenced in, and he dropped a 10-cent piece there in the grass, and he was stooping over looking for that 10-cent piece when the ram noticed him in that attitude and took it for an invitation. But Grandfather didn't notice the ram, and here he come, busting off the ridge with business in his eye. But no, it weren't a Smith. It was a Jefferson is what it was. Now, old Miss Jefferson, there was a good soul. Had a glass eye and used to lend it to old Miss Wagner, who hadn't any to receive company in. But it weren't big enough. Miss Jefferson had a number 7, and Miss Wagner was excavated for a 14. So when Miss Wagner weren't noticing, why, it would get twisted around in the socket, look up maybe out to one side every which ways, whilst the other one was looking straight ahead as a spyglass. Oh yes, one little wink in that handmade eye would lay over. Well, grown people didn't mind it, but it mostly always made the children cry. She tried packing it in raw cotton, but it didn't seem to work. Somehow the cotton would get loose and stick out and look so kind of awful, and children couldn't stand it. And she was always dropping it out, turning up her old dead light on the company empty, and making everybody so uncomfortable, because she didn't know when it hopped out, being blind on that side, you see. So somebody'd have to hunch her and say, "Your game eyes fetch loose, Miss Wagner, dear." Then they'd all have to sit and wait till she jammed it back in again, wrong side out as a general thing. But wrong side out didn't make much difference, really, because the glass eye was sky blue on the front side and gilded on the back side. So when Miss Wagner would get excited, why, it would begin to whirl, and it would flash yeller and blue and yellow. No, it wasn't a Jefferson. It was a Hagedon is what it was. Now, Sarah Hagedorn, that was a woman. She could heft a barrel of flour faster than I can flip a flapjack. And she was friends with Lem, my cousin Lem. And Lem was uptown one day with his dog. What was that dog's name? Lem was leaning up against a scaffolding, drunk or sick or something, and there was an Irishman up on the second floor with a hod full of bricks. That Irishman's foot slipped, down he come, bricks and all. Lit on a perfect stranger. Knocked the living aspirations right out of him. Was an accident, they said. Well, there ain't no such thing as an accident, but don't have the divine hand of providence to it. And the object of that providence was to save the Irishman. If the stranger hadn't have been there, the Irishman had have been killed. So then you might want to ask, if it was providence, why weren't the dog appointed? Well, for a very good reason. The dog would have seen him coming. You can't appoint a dog to a special providence. What was that dog's name? And I had an uncle got himself killed up here once. It was just awful. The poor man never had any insurance, and he was always sorry about it afterwards. It was on the 4th of July, and this uncle of mine, all full of patriotism, opened his mouth to hurrah, and a rocket went right down his throat. Well, before he had a chance to ask for a glass of water to quench the thing, it blew up. And for 24 hours, it rained buttons recognizable as his. Well, a man could not have an experience like that and be entirely cheerful for the rest of his life. And there was a fellow went to see that Dr. Tushmaker up in Virginia City to have his tooth out. Dr. Tushmaker was very good at his craft. He used to practice pulling teeth on iron rakes. Well, the patient came in and sat in the chair. The dentist pulled, and the tooth wouldn't come. But the patient's right foot come up. The dentist said, "What are you doing that for?" He said, "I don't know. I can't help it." "Well, then you go home, come back in a week. I'll take care of you." During the week, old Dr. Tushmaker invented an instrument combining the properties of the screw, the lever, the wedge, the hammer, and the inclined plane. Well, the patient came back and sat in the chair. One turn of the crank, and out came that tooth. Its roots were hooked under the patient's right big toe, and his entire skeleton was extracted with the tooth. They had to send him home in a pillowcase. But no matter, old Dr. Tushmaker, he got a patent on that instrument. Yes, as a turkey deboner. I don't suppose we ever will find out what happened to Grandfather's old ram. I'd rather have some music anyway, wouldn't you? Let's bring back, well, nope, not yet. We're going to have a duo. We're going to have a duo, Ron and his brother Gary. Now get this. They have been singing together for over 80 years. Woo! Yes. Can you find another pair of siblings like this that done that? I don't think so. This is going to be fun.